Hey everyone, Dex here. Today we're breaking down how warehouse automation is transforming the US industrial and commercial supply sector. This space is facing a lot of challenges. Labor shortages, skill gaps, reshoring pressures, tariffs, supply chain fragility, rising operational costs, limited space, exploding SKU counts, you name it. And this all impacts industries that deal with everything from PPE and fasteners to filters and assemblies and aftermarket parts. So, the big question. How do companies stay competitive? A major part of the answer is warehouse automation technology. Let's walk through what a warehouse looks like today and what it could look like with automation. Alright, so let's draw it out. So right here you have the base of your warehouse, and you may have a bunch of receiving dock doors over here, maybe some trailers to unload back here. And then from the receiving, you may bring it inbound to the temporary storage area. This is where you might do your receiving. You'll make sure you have the product quality. You might have a QC check station or something like that. And then you're moving products over into bulk storage. So you can think of traditional racking, and that will go back here. And then from there, you may have items going to a production area. And then, if not, you may be going to fulfillment or outbound, but we can talk about that later. So after production, it may go back into storage, or it might go directly from the storage area over to the other area, but it may go into fulfillment. And then from there, might go into like a packaging area. And then over to outbound. We have more trucks that you're going to be loading onto to send things out. All right, first we're going to talk about inbound receiving. So you see back there in this corner, those are the trucks coming inbound. This is where materials enter the building and where many companies feel the pain. Let's look at a typical setup. So you may have a truck trailer that is floor loaded. So that might mean you have boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes stacked all the way to the ceiling. And so typically that unloading process, that process takes companies sometimes even days. If you think thousands of boxes on the back of a truck and how long it takes to lift those products off and organize them and receive them in. And the challenge with that is it might mess up your inventory counts. You may need to hold more stock or buffer inventory to allow you days to unload those trailers. Another challenge you might experience is that these items could be heavy, or you might have extreme weather conditions. So let's say you're in the desert in Arizona and it's 114 degrees. Having people unloading those trailers, it's not just uncomfortable, but it could be dangerous for the workers as well. Okay, and now that we've talked about the floor loaded stuff, the other challenge could be you have a truck trailer and you have little pallets on it. And from there you have stacks and stacks of boxes moving on top of it. So that's going to be easier to unload. But in reality, stuff gets temporarily dropped wherever there's space. Forklifts are constantly moving pallets around, cartons are getting touched multiple times, and operators are manually scanning everything. Every touch is time and every touch is cost. And with shortages in skilled labor, it's harder than ever to keep up. After storage and retrieval, you'll be putting items in this bulk area. And then in a production environment, you may have to transfer goods over to that production area. So you might use something like a forklift, or you might use a cart with some shelves, or you might use some sort of trolley system. Now let's talk about production support. In manufacturing, raw materials flow to the line and finished goods flow back out, but manually, it's a grind. Operators drive forklifts back and forth, others push carts or pull pallet jacks all day. If materials don't make it to the line on time, production slows down. And because these jobs involve repetitive movement and heavy labor, turnover tends to be high, which means constant retraining. After moving back from production over to bulk storage, it may bring you to the third area where companies struggle, and that's distribution and fulfillment, especially in the commercial supply world. Imagine picking fasteners or bolts. You'd have to go to storage, pull inventory, measure account quantities, take them to a value-added station, weigh, kit, label, and return any leftover inventory. Then you still need to batch pick the rest of the order. Think of PPE, filters, tools, or whatever that requires. Finally, everything gets consolidated through a put wall and packaged and either shipped parcel or stacked onto pallets. It's a lot of motion, a lot of complexity, and a lot of touches. And a lot of training, which again is hard when turnover is high. Now let's put automation into the same operation and see how things change. We're still going to have a warehouse. We'll still have some dock doors for receiving. We'll still have some storage. It may look a little bit different. We'll touch more on that in just a moment. We'll still have a production area. And then we'll still have a fulfillment area. We may also add an area for packaging, may be included in the fulfillment area. We'll touch on that in a second. May also have a palletizing area. And then we'll of course still have doors for your outbound activities. To go back from the receiving area, you might remember we talked about, that truck trailer that had just boxes loaded from the floor and just tons and tons and tons of them that took a lot of effort. For inbound, systems like one-touch receiving can unload floor-loaded cartons using extendable conveyors and automated scanning. Here you can see the extendable conveyor going into these truck trailers, and the cartons are loaded onto them. And then over here, you'll have something that's a scanner, so it's scanning those cartons, and it talks directly with the WMS and WES. And then cartons are taken by conveyor right to the storage system. And here we're using a mini load ASRS system. So ASRS is automated storage and retrieval. That's where goods are going in and out automatically. Instead of taking all day or multiple days to unload, it might take a couple of hours now. If you receive pallets, forklifts simply place them on nearby stands, while mobile robots haul them to storage, reducing forklift traffic and eliminating that temporary storage everywhere chaos. For production replenishment, instead of operators driving forklifts all day, software signals the ASRS to deliver raw materials the exact moment they're needed. You can see here that items are being pulled out of storage and transported either via conveyor or mobile robots to bring them to and from the production line. This removes delays, eliminating heavy lifting, and ensures production never waits for materials. Now items are done with their production. You may also need to bring them into fulfillment or back into another ASRS system. Could go to the original one, could go over here. Really depends on the design and what's needed. So for this scenario, we're going to have another ASRS system over here. And that's going to be for finished goods. And then they're going to be connected to fulfillment. So if you think of like piece picking stations or kitting stations, and you'll have some conveyor that loops around them, and then you'll have all these workstations coming off of it where people are picking goods. So from fulfillment, you may go into a packing or a palletizing area before going outbound. But let's kind of take a step back. For distribution, goods-to-person technology takes over. Think shuttles or mini-load systems delivering totes directly to a picking station. A carton erector makes right-size packaging automatically. Operators simply pick items from the totes into the order carton. You can see in this video, the operators are quickly picking from a source into an order carton to be efficient and accurate with their fulfillment. When kitting is required, like weighing fasteners, the operator does it right at the station, no more bouncing between areas. The carton circulates until all items are picked. Finish orders get palletized or sent to outbound, where conveyor and sortation direct everything to the right truck. So after fulfillment, if things are getting palletized, you may have this conveyor loop that's directly tied to this ASRS system to also be tied to automated palletizing. Automated palletizing uses sequencing shuttles and intelligent software to build pallets in the correct order. Heavy items on bottom, light on top. Strong, stable, accurate pallets every time. No lifting, no injuries, and far less labor. So what does this all add up to? Higher speed in receiving, storage, retrieval, and fulfillment. Reducing labor and training costs. Higher picking accuracy. Elimination of non-value added touches. Better use of warehouse space. Support for reshoring efforts, better work environment, less heavy lifting, stronger customer experience, scalability and future-proof operations. Automation helps people work smarter, not harder. It reduces grunt work, boosts performance, and lets companies reinvest their space and labor into higher value areas. And for industrial and commercial supply companies that deal with millions of SKUs, tight margins, and customer expectations for speed, automation becomes a competitive advantage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next whiteboard session.